Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Education Committee meeting of the Board of School Directors. As in true form, we have a full agenda, and so we welcome you, and we're going to move right into the information that has been prepared for this evening. We're going to hear from special education services and their updates. We're going to hear from student services and support, academic data, and we will talk about new course offerings. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ms. Brown.
All right, good evening again. Our first update will be presented by Kate Crossett, our supervisor for special education services. Ms. Crossett.
Good evening, everyone. As Danielle mentioned, I'm also not going to read all of my slides for you word for word. I'm just going to summarize. We've had a lot of staff updates recently and some more to come in the near future. We have our replacement for Dr. Ryan Farrell starting on Monday. I wanted to thank the board for the support in approving and reviewing and vetting new partnerships for our recruitment efforts to fill some of our current vacancies. So we previously had, I believe it was 4 existing partnerships. We now have 11 agencies that we are able to pull from for paraprofessional roles and vacancies, personal care assistants, nursing services that we've needed for individual students based on their IEPs. So that's been a great help, and just wanted to say personally from me, thank you on behalf of our students. Also, as far as our partnership with EBS and the Stepping Stones group, I know Ms. Seward and I will talk more about this, I think, in coming months about our updates with EBS and Lakeside. But in order to streamline our partnership with them, we have a revised contract to only pay for the services they're providing instead of the blanket emotional support that we previously have done. We also have started some virtual case management to support with new special educators across the district. There are a couple of campuses where they have had an influx of new special educators who need additional support around case management and document writing. So we have 2 virtual case managers who are kind of on call to provide that feedback and support. Next slide. Yep. So we also started with a new secretary to the supervisor as of last Friday. She was previously with us in another capacity, so we're really excited to have her in a permanent role. And as of yesterday, we were still in need of the following roles. However, we held a virtual hiring fair yesterday that was very successful, and we are hoping to offer several candidates roles coming out of yesterday's efforts. So we'll continue with that as well. As far as our autistic support program, I felt like it was worth noting for this group the exceptional influx of kindergarten students with supplemental to full-time autistic support needs. On any given year, we typically have between 3 to 5 students coming from an early intervention setting who need this very specialized, very restrictive level of support. This school year, even in the month of September, we already had 8 students fill that classroom, and we currently have 4 students pending additional IEP team decisions that may require such level of support. The only thing that we can possibly potentially attribute that to is, given these students' age, they were 2 or 3 years old when the pandemic started. And so either they had a delay in achieving securing early intervention services, or they may have not had any early intervention service due to the pandemic, or maybe even no prior exposure to a school-like setting. So we are really in a unique position this year with our autistic support needs. And because of the size, we strategically placed that classroom at Alden due to the staff that is skilled in supporting autistic support needs. And we're continuing to monitor that classroom and the needs in that classroom to ensure that those students are receiving the level of support that they need. Right now, currently, the students in that room each have roughly a one-to-one support, whether that be through personal care assistant and or a teacher. So often throughout the day, 2-to-1 to support. And so to support the efforts district-wide, K through 12 for autistic support, we are continuing our partnership with the STAR Autism Support Curriculum, and our coaching and professional development series will be expanding to our secondary schools. They have primarily focused their efforts with our K through 6 staff and faculty and staff over the past 2 years, but we're really excited to work into the calendar, the middle school and the high school as well. And so those links, those calendar dates are located at the bottom of this slide, as you can see. And regarding our emotional support programming, in the spring, I believe, I don't remember if I mentioned it to this group, but it was shared that we were going to use the quality indicators of emotional support that was a joint effort of PDE and Patton to guide the fine-tuning of our emotional support programs district-wide K through 12. And so we did a self-assessment of our programs using this tool, and it gave us a good baseline understanding of the things that we are doing well and we have a solid foundation on, and the areas in which we need to improve. From that, as I mentioned, we adjusted our partnership with EBS, and so they are rolled into one comprehensive contract. And this is because, quite frankly, the difficulty of securing consistent staff for these mental health support roles. We consistently this year have had 12 of the 16 roles for the designed model that we have filled. Currently, there are 11 of 16 roles filled, but due to the shift in our contract, we are able to, only have to pay for the services in which we are receiving, which is excellent. And we have a new district consulting liaison. Her name is Teresa Francis. She just began the week that about roughly 2 weeks ago, October 23rd, I believe, was her first day. And she is supporting through the following efforts with monthly data meetings, coaching of the staff, observation, data analysis, action planning for individual students. And I'm really excited for how her work, I think, is going to help shape that program moving forward. And our leadership support, as with the other members of our academic services team, I am doing monthly principal check-ins through our school support visits. We are conducting our instructional rounds. We are implementing our school support visits and providing follow-up recommendations. And coming up on November 16th, during leadership development, we will be talking through a couple big special education topics to help build our leaders' capacity around understanding what the school-based access program is, how to be an effective LEA representative for their buildings, and disciplinary procedures for students with special needs. As far as our instructional assistance professional development, we also have partnered with Human Resources, and they have been a great partner in rolling out this effort to develop our instructional assistants and make sure that all of our instructional assistants are highly qualified and that they're all coming to us and going into their classrooms each day with a shared understanding of their role and how to support our students. And so we're using the Patan Frame Welder curriculum. For each PD day until June, the instructional assistants will have a designated space, designated time available, and the curriculum so that they can attain, if they are not already highly qualified, the highly qualified status through taking the assessments and passing them. Or if they are already highly qualified, they will earn their 20 hours of professional development that's required to maintain their status. And as far as additional professional development for the rest of our faculty and staff, we had a very successful convening of the special education team on October 10th, in which we reviewed progress monitoring expectations. We discussed related service and district-wide provider expectations, and we also discussed some changes to just operational items, not as far as responsibilities changing, but just trying to make processes and systems more efficient for everybody's purposes. And then we also have had various PD offerings that have been both some optional and some built into the school support visits, where we have done emotional support check-ins, low incidence support check-ins for our autistic support and life skill support classrooms, related service provider specific check-ins, and psychologist check-ins. And resources for parents, I'm really excited. Tomorrow we have a webinar actually with the DCIU, where they will be introducing for the families of students who will be coming to us for kindergarten next fall. They're going to do an overview of that process for families, and then we're going to get to present at 7 p.m. An introduction of our process so that they know who we are, the steps that they need to take so that there are no delays in the continuity of their child's matriculation to kindergarten. If anyone would like to join, you can go on the DCIU website, and I believe the link is still there for you to register. And 30-day placement meetings, these are really, really critical when we have students who are newly enrolling with our district. And we are working right now with each school, particularly in our school support visits, to ensure that there's increased standardization, ensuring that those meetings are happening so that students are getting the supports that they need as early on as possible when they start with our district. And then last but not least, special education parent office hours. You will see something rolling out about this officially soon, but we started these kind of unofficially, where parents have been popping in on a weekly basis to ask questions pertaining maybe to their child's IEP or a specific part of their plan, or a question about determining eligibility. And so we're going to be making those times more official and publicizing them so that parents are aware and can have that access or opportunity for advice and guidance. Any questions? Yeah,
Ms.
Jennifer.
Ball?
I'm sorry, thank you so much. Wowza on the kindergarten. That's fascinating. And you don't have to tell me now. I'm just curious how many of those young people received services or had been identified by the IU before they got to us.
That's a really great question. So all 8 of them, all 8 of the incoming students had already been identified by the IU.
So
Mhm.
they just, usually we see the IU students at the end of, like in April of the year before.
Yes,
None of these hit our radar before then.
they did. They were on our list. So the way the process works, we receive a list in around February. of the parents who intend to transition, right? And they were on our list, but we have to do a reevaluation process for them to take them from the early intervention evaluation to a school age. So some of those students might have had a developmental delay classification as opposed to an autism classification. They also might have had a speech language impairment classification instead of autism. And then when we did our reevaluation, it resulted actually in an autism diagnosis. So, or not diagnosis, but classification. So, yes, they were on our radar. It's just unusual how many
Yeah.
transitioned with that label.
Okay, so we still are one speech and language and one school psychologist. And knowing cause and effect, we know that do we have IEPs at issue because of this lack of staffing?
The short answer is at issue. I would say the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, do we have a plan for responding and supporting the student as far as either compensatory service or as far as providing, an expedited evaluation, reevaluation, any of those action steps needed. We do have a plan for that. Additionally, with the efforts of both expanding our contracting partners and with the virtual hiring fair yesterday, I believe that we actually are going to be solving those in the very near future.
Right, and I think none of the temp or agreements with the 11 different firms have people to fill those staffing issues, correct?
They did not until recently.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great, thank you so much, and I love the training stuff, the PD stuff.
Great.
Are there additional questions? Am I missing anything by way of participants that are not? Okay, thank you. Kate, I just have one questions. I'm intrigued by the formalization of the office hours for parents. Can you share what's been happening just a little bit more informally, and then the expectations, if you will, to make it more formal?
Yeah. It happened kind of accidentally. I had invited special education teachers to some optional office hours, and through two different veins, it became more of a parent office hours, one through parents of students who are faculty in the school district coming to ask questions about their students in their classroom. And then they realized, oh, actually, can I ask this question about my child as well? How can I say no? I can't say no. And so, of course, I'm going to support them in that way. And then similarly, or in a parallel vein, a teacher might have actually provided my contact information to a parent directly to say, I don't know the answer to your question, but I think that, Mrs. Crossett does. And so that parent may have reached out to me directly. That happened a few times. And it's been incredibly helpful actually to have those conversations because of the parent education aspect that it provided. And so as far as the formalization, what it will look like in the future, we would like to have both a variation. These all have been during the school day, but we would like to have some additional evening hours similar to the early intervention webinar that's going to happen tomorrow, where parents have options to work for their schedules, to sign up for times to ask, their questions.
Thank you for sharing. Ms. Brown?
Next, Ms. Siebert will take us to our school support updates through student services.
Good evening, everyone. I was asked to provide a kind of an overview of the supports that the Student Services Department provides to schools and students. So this is really an overview of all that we do. I will try not to read all of the slides verbatim, but there is a lot of information there. So just take notes. So the overall purpose of our office is to remove barriers to teaching and learning and to provide and maintain a safe and emotionally supportive educational environment for students. That's our job. So this is the team, and there's a lot of us. I think you all know Miss Austin. I know you've talked to her sometimes. Yes, Jennifer's giving the thumbs up. But this is the team. Best. She is awesome. She's wonderful. But we also have 14 guidance counselors, 3 social workers, 26 school safety officers, and 11 school nurses. So that's the team. Next slide. So the hallmark type of functions that we have in our department are around counseling and social support, social work support, I'm sorry, health and safety, registration and attendance, and troubleshooting with emergency responses. So those are like the overall big buckets within the department, but you'll see in the next slides where we start to get a little granular. So next slide. So for our counseling department, overall, our staff works to ensure that our students are meeting future-ready college and career awareness targets. We do this through a myriad of strategies, college visits from grades 5 through 12. Early college awareness is very important for us. And we have a wonderful partner in the Delaware County Community College who aids us with that. Our students also go to other colleges, mainly at the high school area. Oh, okay. We also work with career awareness through Zello, which is K through 12. It helps us to measure and document the artifacts that are required for reporting to the state annually. We also do secondary roster audits to make sure students are on track for graduation. And we manage the Act 158 graduation pathways for students. In addition to that, we take care of our children's hearts. And so when they are in distress, we work with them to provide supports around threat assessment, suicide ideations, and counseling groups, both in groups and individual counseling. We also work with our school teams to create career days for our students. It's a great way for us to bring our community into the school and encourage our students to see different career pathways and to see a vision for their future. We also work on transitioning activities. So when our young ones go from elementary to middle to high school, we try to have a more streamlined and consistent strategy around every student having a great experience of getting to know, saying goodbye to their previous grade level and getting orientated to their new level. So that's really important for us. And we've been doing that through the Transition to Success process. And then, of course, we provide mental health and SEL supports. That's social emotional learning. Next slide. So I share this because we do work in partnership with Delaware County and its various agencies to access different resources that are in our community that we want and that we coordinate literally every day. So this resource map that I share is a resource that my team uses daily to be able to address different concerns or issues that a student or their family may be experiencing. Next slide. In addition to that, we have our school nurses, and I did provide the school nurse calendar here where it lays out the different tasks that each of our nurses does each month. And you will see, actually, Ms. Brown, can you click on that so that we can give them a little bit of a visual? As you can see, they do a lot, particularly in the beginning of that year. Screenings and checking immunizations and making sure that they have doctor's orders for students who require medications, making sure they have doctor's orders for students who have specific and special health needs. So there's a lot that goes on in that September, October timeframe. And throughout the year, there are vision screenings, health and physical screenings, as well as we do dental screenings in the spring. And there's always that prep and getting ready for students in the next year. We start that in May, actually. So that's what our nurses do. They also do AED monthly checks. Those are the machines that are used for heart as a defibrillator. So they check those every month. There is one in every single building, including the administration building. Oops. Okay. There we go. Wait, back one more. Back to nurses. Alrighty. And it also should be noted, in collaboration with Kate and her team, we do have students who have special physical needs. And some of our students do have coloscopy bag care and changing, and tracheotomies that our nurses are trained to clean and take care of, as well as diabetic blood insulin checks. So I just wanted to share that too. Next slide. Social workers. So our social workers are basically they are the connection between the community resources and our families, and making sure that they have access to things that they need to eliminate barriers for their students to be successful in school. The document on item number 1 is our resource guide. That is compiled every year and updated every year by Nicole Heileman, who is one of our social workers. That document is a 106-page document of every resource in Delaware County. And we're really proud of the work that she has been doing to keep this updated year after year. This is a document that is used by our entire division whenever we are troubleshooting a student need. They also procure donations for our students. And recently, Mr. Joe Cuff-Wright partnered with Philabundance to create food pantries in Penwood Middle, the 9th grade academy, and the high school, seeing a need for students who had food insecurities. He partnered and sought resources to be able to address the needs of our students, our athletes, and our general population. Next slide. School safety. We've talked a lot about safety this month. We had our community conversations recently. And so in our school safety department, we work on emergency management. So when there is a physical or emergency in the building, our staff is trained to respond to it. Our staff works really hard on relationship building with students to support positive and supportive school climate. It is the best way for our folks to be able to address a student who may be elevated or in distress. Because they have a relationship with them, they are often easier to talk them down and to address the issue. So we really do focus a lot around relationship building. And I'm really glad that a lot of our SSOs are community members as well. They know their families, they know their friends, their aunts and uncles. So that relationship is really important. They're also certified in first aid, and we do coordinate a layer of safety strategies. We actually are implementing right now external door sensors so that we know what external door has been opened and who went out of it. That is to, continue to secure our building and make sure that we know who is coming in and out of it, as well as the safety devices, security cameras, and deployment strategies. Next slide, please. And I know I've shown this in a few other presentations, but I thought it was important to remind folks that this is the level of training that every one of our school safety officers receives annually. We try to make sure that their skills are up to date and that the lessons and these strategies are fresh and are being used daily. Next slide, please. Now we do a whole lot of other things, so I'm gonna try not to read everyone. But we do residency investigation. Mr. Keith is our residency investigation. So when there is a question around the primary residence of a student, that is the man that does the investigating and home visits, interviews. He's like our very own detective. And we also create the school district calendar. So using a very delicate set of requirements and achieving balance between holidays, professional development days, and making sure students have the required hours of academic time. When I tell you, we literally, we calculate it down to the minute. So we do that as well. We also do the annual student enrollment projections and they are used to build our budgets for the next year. So we use a set of information from 3 years of enrollments for every single school. We determine attrition or growth patterns, and we use this technique in order to create the projections that build that build the budgets. Now, we also do revisit it toward the end of the summer because, as we all know, we can't predict where everybody's going to move, and we can't predict how many kindergartners are going to come. So we do constantly monitor that number all through the summer and the beginning of the school year. And we also do discipline and the code of conduct. So we work with a set of folks, teachers, administrators. We've had parents on our committee, and we look at the code of conduct and see where there are areas where we can improve the language or provide clarity. And so we do that annually as well. Also, I serve as the hearing officer when, unfortunately, sometimes our students have conduct that rise to the level of expulsion and or an alternative placement. And then I work with the school team, the parent, and often the student as well to figure out the appropriate consequence. Next slide. Registration management. So, our wonderful team under Danielle White, they welcome our families into the district. They facilitate getting the paperwork and connecting them with schools. They also manage our eSchool. eSchool is like the lifeblood of our district. It's our student information system. So that team manages the system. We also have PIMS reporting. So we ensure, and our new team member, John Frank, who actually is getting married on Friday, which is great. We're so happy for him. He helps us to manage how we accurately enter data into eSchool and extract the data to report it to the state. We also do attendance and truancy, and that's Mr. Keith as well. He monitors the attendance data monthly. He works with the social workers and the counselors around creating student attendance improvement plans and working with families. Unfortunately, there are times where families are not responsive to us, and it does rise to the level of truancy court. And so Mr. Keith also functions as our truancy court officer and representative of our district. Often the outcome of the truancy court hearings is either a better relationship with the parent or sometimes and actually I really appreciate the judges that work with us on getting compliance and supports and help from the community for our parents. We also help our schools when there is a family conflict. Often we have parents that will come to Green Avenue, and we sit down with them. We record what their concern is, and then we work with our school staff, the leaders. We literally access almost everybody to resolve that issue. Our focus is on resolving concerns and making sure we're meeting the needs of families and students. Next slide. We also manage educating children and youth experiencing homelessness. We provide supports and toiletries and coats and book bags. We also coordinate a lot of transportation services. Often when a student is identified to us, they may be displaced outside of our district or in a totally different place, and consistency and stability in school is paramount. So we provide transportation supports for displaced students, and we work with their families on finding resources within the community. I also function as the person who represents the district for best interest determination meetings when we have a student who is placed in foster care with a resource family. So often I will receive a contact from CYS or DHS around a student who is being placed in a home, and we get together and we have what's called BID meetings, best interest determination meetings. And that's where we all as a team talk about the situation, what is the resolution we're hoping to achieve. We at all costs, we try to keep the child in the same school where they were, again, to promote consistency and stability for that child who is experiencing some change in their life. We also provide homebound support. So when we have a young person who has a physical limitation, they may have had surgery, or they may have, or they may, well, surgery. So, or anything like that, something that is really temporary where they need time to heal. We facilitate that with the parent. We have a homebound physician's document where their physician will lay out what their condition is, their constraints, like they can't stand for this amount of time, and how long they need to be on homebound. We utilize our PLC to provide the education for homebound because it provides flexibility for the student, and it also gives them more academic time than your traditional sending a teacher to the school, which would only give you about 5 hours of academic time a week. So this gives them more time and more flexibility. Next slide. We also provide homeschooling support. So for our families who are taking on the challenge of teaching their children, we facilitate them doing their affidavits, making sure that they submit their academic programs and how they plan on running the academic program for their child for that year. So we make sure all of that paperwork is in place. They also have an evaluator, and we receive the evaluations of the child's progress. We also make sure that they have access to extracurricular activities, special programs, and special education support. So I partner a lot with Kate on that piece as well. We also provide support for child custody and protection orders under the guidance of our district solicitor. So often we may receive a custody agreement or an order of protection, and sometimes our school teams need some guidance on how do I implement this, or how do I address a parent's question or concern. So we help them in figuring out the appropriate responses and being true to the court order. We also manage field trips. We review them and we approve them, and we provide support and guidance to schools for them. Next slide. So these are some of our partners I've mentioned. We also partner with Delaware County Health Department, who actually provides a part-time nursing support to our Walnut Street Elementary School. I mentioned Eagles Eye Mobile, and we also work a lot with Delaware County Youth and Services Justice Works. We started implementing that this year with the high school to help our young people who are having a little bit of trouble getting to school on time. So we're working to try and address that truancy with our students head on, and I really appreciate the high school team for working with us and partnering with us with this new partnership. Next slide, please. We also partner with Lakeside neurologic counselors. We have 3 full-time secondary neurologic student support counselors who work within our middle and 9th grade academy in the high school, providing brain-based trauma-informed strategies to counsel students. They help run therapy session groups in collaboration with our counselors. And they also create groups that are for special needs that are identified in the school. For example, last year, there was a grief group where a lot of our young people expressed a need for an outlet or a way to talk about their grief. And so we're really trying to be targeted and focused on addressing the needs of our students. And of course, Holcomb Behavioral Health Systems has been a longtime partner of our district. They provide our SAP, which is Student Assistant Program, coordinators. And this year we actually have 2 coordinators. So I'm really happy. And that's due to a grant that we received from the Department of Education around mental health and safety. Next slide, please. And I think that's about it. I also work on the policies.
Thank you, Ms. Seward. I see your hand, Ms. Hall.
Thank you, Ms. Cook Henry. That's awesome, Ms. Seward. Thank you. When we were at a safety meeting this Saturday, a teacher talked about eSchool not having photos in it and not being able to see other people's classrooms, like if you have coverages. Do we have like a punch list for eSchool that we're working on to address some of this stuff?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Actually, we are currently working on getting those photos and uploading them into eSchool. So that's in progress right now. Our IT department has been supporting us on that. And we have been working with eSchool to figure out a way for teachers to be able to see other students. Where we have to do a little bit more digging with eSchool, because right now the logic is that a teacher is assigned to a class. So being able to widen that, there may be a little bit of logistical programming that may need to happen. So, but we are exploring that right now.
Great, thanks so much. Because if you're doing a coverage, not having your class list in front of you is a little hard. And yeah, that's it for now. Thank you.
No
Awesome.
problem. Thank
Appreciate
you.
Can I provide clarity? The teacher providing a coverage should actually have a printout of the list of students of the class that he or she is covering. We would have to ask the school their specific process for a teacher who is covering, but technically a teacher who is covering should be provided with the class list of the classes that he or she is covering. What the teacher was asking for specifically was being able to go into eSchool to automatically receive that information.
Right, but in this case, she needed to see that classroom in eSchool because she needed to see pictures of the students to make sure they were all where they.
I understand that, but I also wanted to provide our audience that the teachers do have a list that they go into the classroom. It just does not have pictures of the students for that. So the teacher isn't going into the classroom blind to cover. One might understand that way. We understand the acts of the teacher, but for the audience who may not understand any of what we're speaking to, I want them to understand that they actually are provided with a list of names of students, just not the picture.
Are there additional questions? It's a lot of support and services, and we appreciate all of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dunn will actually lead us into our academic data update for 22-23 school year. As we all know that Dr. Lewis has transitioned from the William Penn School District.
Good evening, everybody. Today we're actually going to be looking at PVOS growth metrics. And just to give you context, last month or the last couple of months, we've been taking a look at achievement data, which is what percentage of students were proficient or advanced on the end of state assessments, whether they be PSSA or Keystone for math, ELA, or science. What the PVOS growth measure does is put that number in context. And what it does is it compares the performance of those students to other students in the state that have had a similar testing history as them. So it creates a more of a what we would call like an apples to apples comparison for what is the value added of our institution, whether it be as a district, a school, or a teacher. So we're going to take a look at some data points. All right, so just to give you a quick idea of what the symbols you'll be seeing are indicating is there are 5 categories, the highest being well above, going all the way down to well below. So for context, the green, which is meets in the middle, is if students perform on the test exactly at the same level of all the other students in the state that have a similar history, then they're green. If they do better than the state expects based on our model, then they will be above or well below. And if they underperform their projection, they'll be yellow or red, which is below or well below. All right, so given our Focus Forward 25 goals, we need to see accelerated growth. So what we are targeting for schools is for them to be above or well above their growth projection. So this is an overview of math for the PSSA. As you can see, we have several schools that when we aggregate all their data together are in the well above category. And as a district overall, we are in the well above for PSSA. So just to summarize it, 7 schools have a growth indicator of above or well above for PSSA math. All right, now we'll take a look at ELA. All right, so for ELA, as a district, we are at the meets. We have 1 school that has a growth indicator of well above or for PSSA ELA, and 7 schools that have a growth indicator of meets. For science, we have some work to do. We have underperformed that target for the district. 3 schools have a growth indicator of meets, where 5 schools have well below. And just as a quick reminder, there are only, science is only tested in the 4th grade. So for our elementary schools, they only have 1 grade tested. The same thing with our middle school, only 8th graders are tested. So there's only 1 grade being tested. Lastly, let's take a look at Keystone. Keystones are at our high school campuses currently. So overall, for Algebra 1, we met the growth indicator. However, for the Penwood 9th grade academy, we were below, as well as the Penwood High School. Now, you may be saying, wait, we only have 2 high school campuses. How are they both yellow, but the district overall is green? And that's because the attribution rules for district scoring are slightly different than the individual school rules. And so that's what accounts for those numbers, particularly because Penwood 9th grade academy barely missed the meets criterion. So given how close they were to that line, that it's not ununderstandable to see that development. In terms of science, for the district, biology happens at Penwood High School, typically for 10th graders. We were meets, and then literature was well above, which is also typically tested in the 10th grade. Any questions on that information?
I see no hands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Our last topic for the evening is the new course offering request being presented by Dr. Pardini, who's leading the efforts of scheduling and course selection for the high school. Dr. Pardini?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, we have 3 new courses we're looking to get approved. So first, we wanted to show you that we made sure the new courses are aligned to our strategic plan, with the goal of reviewing the offerings we have and making sure that we're modifying or adding additional offerings to the course selection guide to meet education standards and meet the needs and the interest of the high school students that we serve. Just a reminder of our different pathways that we have. We have our STEM pathway that focuses on our health sciences, information technology, engineering, and mathematics. And then we have our arts and humanities and social sciences, with our fine arts, liberal arts, education, general ed. And then we also have the business administration and entrepreneurship concentration, which one of our new courses will be fitting into that specific concentration. The first one that we're requesting is an additional AP course to be added to the high school. We want to do AP Music Theory. It would be a full year course for 1 credit. We have a link to the AP framework. This would be taught by Mr. Naroff, who is our full-time music teacher at the high school. And he would be following everything according to the College Board for AP Music Theory. We would get him AP certified, and he would make sure that his syllabus was approved by the College Board ahead of time. The only prerequisite that we would ask for this course is that the students had to have completed 1 year of the instrument band course and passed that before taking this. So that would make this an option for juniors and seniors, because if they finish a full year of the instrument sophomore year, they actually would be able to try to fit this in their schedule junior or senior year. An elective course that we want to add in for our fine arts pathway is a music technology course. This would be a half-year elective course. It would talk about music technology and careers in the music industry. It would allow students to learn how music is created and trying to piece together the different elements with music. When working with Mr. Naroff in developing this course, he said that this would allow more students to participate in the arts, especially students who may not feel comfortable playing an actual instrument, and that they've shown that they have an interest in producing music and working behind the scenes. So this would allow them to explore that option of the fine arts. And it would also fit a little bit into STEM as well, because it is an information technology course. It's just specified into music. He included a link of an overview of what the course would look like, but him and I are going to work together to make sure that we have it fully fleshed out with assessment and curriculum developed for the following school year if it's approved. And then the last course that we want to add would go with our business and entrepreneurship. It would be a half-year course focused on sports and entertainment marketing. This was developed by Mr. Riles, and it focuses on both amateur and professional sports, entertainment events, and the idea of marketing leisure activities. I would review basics of marketing and economics, and the activities inside allow students to review how sports and entertainment figures have built their own businesses and expanded past their original opportunities. He has a unit on just the example of Michael Jordan. He originally makes his money playing basketball, but now he has a whole business empire past his days playing basketball. And so the students will be able to see how he was able to market himself in that way and be one of the most successful basketball players, and then business owners. And then he owned another league. And then they'll have projects in the class focusing on the student interest that allows them to role play, marketing, creating the businesses, and how to host large entertainment events. One of the projects has them look at the economic factors of hosting the Super Bowl and how that can actually support businesses in the area. And it looks at the cost of the Super Bowl as well. We will still offer our general marketing class as well. We'll just have Mr. Riles is working on developing it to fit more student needs. And then this sports and entertainment marketing would allow for another option for students if they're interested in this career after they leave us. And on the link, you'll be able to see he's planned out all 16 weeks of the course.
Are there additional questions at this time? Ms. Hall?
Thank you. Just a comment. Awesome classes. Thank you so much.
It was the teachers. They did all the hard work. I'm just really excited to represent them here and get these offered for our students and our wonderful staff.
Very, very exciting.
Thank you, Dr.
My-
Mahaney, for leading that effort. I do want to make certain that we do mention that as teachers, we're beginning to have the discussion of what we should offer for next year's courses. This high school team made certain to make the work that we did last spring correlate with the course pathway project. Make sure it's also the work that we're continuing. So to continue to build out the pathways that are here to make them defined as individual pathways.
Ms. Cook Henry, you have a hand raised.
I don't see it, but can we make them available?
Yes. Dr. Plum.
Hi, not a question, just a comment. Wow, those courses seem fabulous. Totally cool. Love them. Love them, love them, love them. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll share with the teachers, and a thank you to Mr. Dunn and Miss Brown. They really helped us with getting this ball moving for our teachers as well.
Are there other hands raised?
There are not, Ms. Cook Henry.
Thank you. Is there anything for the good of the order? Are we good? Seeing none. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you for the great work. The courses, the updates, the services. It's a lot of work. Our students are better for it. And so we appreciate all of the efforts. Have a great evening, everyone.